War doesn't begin with weapons, it begins with words. And before it ever reaches the battlefield, it grows inside the human mind. We don't destroy nations first, we destroy understanding. And when that happens, the distance between two hearts becomes wider than any border drawn on a map. Look at Pakistan and Afghanistan, two lands divided by lines, but connected by blood, by memories, by stories of survival. The conflict between them isn't just history, it's a reflection of us. Of what happens when pride speaks louder than peace, and when the heart forgets that love is stronger than fear. Today, I don't want to talk about who was right or wrong. I want to talk about what war teaches us about being human. Because when you finally stop choosing sides, you begin to understand the real battle, the one inside all of us. This is not a story about nations. It's a story about awakening, the moment the heart remembers that no border can divide compassion. When we look at the conflict between Pakistan and Afghanistan, we see borders, we see soldiers. We see headlines, but beneath all of that, there is something deeper, a reflection of the human condition itself. Every nation, before it ever fights another, has already begun to fight within. The same pride that divides people from each other is the pride that divides one heart from peace. War always begins with fear disguised as power. We convince ourselves that we fight to protect, to defend, to honor, but beneath those words lies an ego terrified of being seen as weak. It is this fear that fuels the fire of hatred, and the tragedy is this: hatred promises strength, but it always delivers emptiness. When you witness two nations locked in a struggle that seems endless, you are not just seeing history, you are seeing humanity's mirror. Because every battle on earth is a reflection of the battles we refuse to resolve inside ourselves. The ego says, I must win, but the soul quietly asks, at what cost? No one truly wins a war. One side may claim victory, one may hold the ground, but the invisible losses are always the same: trust, innocence, compassion. These are not trophies that can be regained once the dust settles. They are the silent graves buried within every survivor's heart. The illusion of victory blinds us to the truth that no peace can be built upon the ruins of another. Pain, for a brief moment, one nation may stand taller, but that height is built on sorrow, and sorrow never sustains power. It only deepens the cycle of fear, but every conflict carries within it a hidden possibility, the possibility to awaken. When the pain becomes unbearable, when the losses become undeniable, the human spirit begins to ask different questions. Why are we still fighting? What are we really protecting? It is in those moments of collective exhaustion that wisdom begins to rise. The lesson is not in who was right or wrong. The lesson is in what hatred costs us when we let it lead. Every time we choose anger over understanding, we lose a part of our humanity. And maybe that's the real battlefield, not the mountains between two lands, but the space between two hearts that once shared the same sky. Because in every war, the greatest loss is not land, it's the peace of the human soul that forgets how to love. It's easy to talk about war in numbers. Soldiers lost, borders crossed, days counted. But behind every number there is a story. A mother waiting for a son, a father digging through rubble for what's left of a home, a child who no longer knows what silence sounds like. These stories exist on both sides of every border, and in that truth lies the greatest paradox. Even in separation, we are the same. When pain spreads across the land, it does not stop to ask for nationality. Suffering does not carry a passport. Tears do not need translation. In the eyes of a grieving mother, in the trembling hands of a displaced child, we see the same emotions: fear, loss, love, and longing. These are not Afghan emotions or Pakistani emotions. They are human emotions, and when we remember that, war begins to lose its meaning. Human spirit has a strange kind of strength. It survives even what tries to destroy it. In every burned village, someone still plants a seed. In every ruined home, someone still lights a candle. That small act of hope, repeated 1,000 times, becomes the quiet rebellion of the heart against despair. We often think that peace will come when leaders shake hands, when agreements are signed. But peace doesn't begin in a document, it begins in understanding. It begins when a soldier looks into the eyes of the one he calls enemy and realizes they both want the same thing, to go home. Hold their children, to live without fear. When we recognize the same pain in another, hatred loses its foundation, because hatred can only survive when we see others as different. The moment we see ourselves in them, the same dreams, the same hunger for safety and belonging, the illusion of separation collapses. Philosophically, this is the turning point for humanity, the recognition that division is an illusion created by wounded minds. The soul does not see borders, it only recognizes connection. Every culture, every land, every religion, all are branches of the same root, and once we remember that, compassion returns like rain over scorched earth. Healing begins, because even after war, something always survives, the quiet truth that we were never enemies, only mirrored, reflecting each other's forgotten humanity. In the end, it is not land that binds us together, but love, the silent understanding that we have all suffered enough to finally deserve peace. Would you like me to write Chapter 3, The Rebirth of Peace, when hearts choose understanding over pride, next, in the same deep and motivational tone? Peace is not born from the signatures of politicians. It is born in silence, the kind of silence that comes after years of shouting. It happens when the human heart finally grows tired of being angry, because anger, no matter how righteous it feels, always burns the one who carries it longer than the one it's aimed at. In the history of every nation, there comes a time when people realize that pain cannot be healed by causing more pain. That realization is not weakness, it is evolution. It is the moment when humanity takes a step higher in consciousness, when the people of Pakistan and Afghanistan, or any two divided lands, begin to look beyond old wounds and see the shared sky above them. Something sacred happens. The heart, once trained to defend, begins to open. It starts to understand that strength is not the ability to destroy, but the courage to forgive. Forgiveness is misunderstood. It is not saying it didn't hurt. It is saying it will not control me anymore. It is a declaration of freedom, freedom from the cycle of hatred that imprisons both sides. Forgiveness does not change the past, but it transforms what the past means to us. And that shift changes everything. When a heart chooses understanding over pride, a new kind of strength is born, the strength of awareness. Awareness allows us to see that no enemy is truly external. All enemies are reflections of our inner conflicts. When we heal inside, the world around us begins to mirror that healing. This is how peace is reborn, not through force, but through consciousness. When one heart awakens, it influences another. When one person chooses compassion, they silently give permission for others to do the same. It is like light spreading through darkness, not loud, not fast, but unstoppable. And perhaps that is the message humanity keeps forgetting. We are not born to conquer, but to connect. The true victory is not over others, but over the ego that keeps us apart. When understanding replaces pride, war loses its audience. Because the moment a heart learns to love again, the sound of conflict becomes too small to hear. We have seen that hatred builds walls, but understanding builds bridges. We have witnessed how suffering can divide, yet also awaken. Every wound humanity carries holds within it the seed of transformation. if only we choose to learn from it instead of repeating it. Between Pakistan and Afghanistan, between any two lands, there is more than geography, there is shared humanity, shared pain, shared hope, and one day, when the noise of pride fades and the silence of wisdom takes its place, these lands will not remember the battles, they will remember the lessons. Because every war ends twice, first on the ground and later in the heart, and until it ends in the heart, peace remains only a dream. Let that be the message, not of politics, but of humanity. Let peace begin where it was always meant to, within each of us.